So today we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea about how government should be managing their money. It's a framework that totally rethinks what a responsible national budget should look like, moving way beyond just the financial bottom line. Whenever we talk about a country's budget, the conversation always seems to be about deficits and debt. But what if focusing only on those numbers means we're completely missing the very foundations of our economy, our society, our actual well-being? So on the one hand, you see the traditional signs of a healthy budget, right? A low deficit, a stable debt to GDP ratio, looks great on paper. But on the other hand, you've got these massive hidden costs. We can hit all our financial targets while, at the very same time, we're draining our natural resources and watching our communities fall apart. That's a huge, dangerous blind spot in how we're running things. And this gets us to our first major point, really uncovering this national blind spot. It's all about the gap between our financial spreadsheets and what's happening in the real world. This quote just hits the nail on the head. It points out this crazy paradox where our current rules can actually make it seem financially responsible to do destructive things, while making it seem irresponsible to invest in the long-term health of our planet and our society. Basically, it boils down to this. We've become experts at counting money, but we're totally failing to account for the things that actually create wealth and allow us to thrive. And that massive disconnect, well, it sets the stage for a completely new way of thinking. So, if that's the problem, how do we fix it? Well, first, we have to really identify what we've been missing all along, the real sources of all our wealth.
And that brings us to this core concept, real capital. Now, this isn't just about money in the bank or factories. Real capital is the fundamental stuff, the productive assets of our world that we depend on for, well, everything.
And you can break it down into 4 key types. First up, you've got natural capital, things like a stable climate, clean water, healthy ecosystems. Then there's human capital. That's all of us, our health, our education, our skills. You've also got social capital, the trust we have in each other and our institutions that lets us work together. And finally, there's built capital, the infrastructure, the technology we create. You need all 4 of these to be healthy for a country to really thrive. Okay, so if this real capital is what truly matters, how on earth do we start weaving that into our national budgets? Well, this leads us to a new set of rules that are actually designed for the world we live in. The new goal is actually pretty simple, but it's also profound. Public spending should be judged by how it affects our real capital. This redefines fiscal responsibility. It's not just about money, it's about making sure our essential systems are stable and not being used up faster than they can recover. The new bottom line is a balanced, sustainable system. And this principle gets a formal name, the Real Capital Non-Decline Rule. The idea is simple but powerful. No national budget should get a green light if it causes a net drop in our critical real capital. Think of it as a fundamental guardrail for our future. This completely flips the script on what it means to be irresponsible with public money. Through this new lens, fiscal malpractice isn't just about spending too much money. It's about knowingly funding things that chew away at our natural, social, or human capital. Basically, kicking the can down the road and sticking future generations with an enormous bill. Okay, this all sounds pretty good in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in practice? How do we start budgeting with both our financial and our real-world eyes wide open? Here's where it gets really concrete. We can link big ideas like planetary boundaries to specific types of real capital. For example, climate change is a sign that our atmospheric capital is out of balance. And how do we measure that? Rising CO2 concentrations. Suddenly, these huge, abstract environmental goals become manageable things we can actually track and account for. Now, here's a really crucial point. This framework doesn't throw out other economic theories, like modern monetary theory or MMT. It actually completes them. You see, MMT helps us understand what we can financially afford. It tells us what's possible. But these real capital rules give us the missing piece, an ethical and physical guide for what we should be financing to make sure we have a stable future. And this isn't just a vague idea. It's an actionable plan. The whole process would kick off before any budget is passed, with a sustainability assessment. You'd ask, what's the state of our real capital? And if you find a system that's getting worse, say our groundwater levels are dropping, then the budget would be legally required to respond with a funded, time-bound plan to fix it. So let's pull all of this together.
What we're really looking at here is a fundamental redefinition of what it means to be fiscally responsible in the 21st century.
This quote says it all, really. This isn't about tossing out everything we know about public finance. It's about making it better. It's about adding a crucial layer of real-world accountability to the systems we already use. It's an evolution, not a revolution.
Ultimately, when you boil it all down, this whole framework is calling for a huge shift in perspective. A budget shouldn't just be about balancing a spreadsheet. A budget should be our most powerful tool for taking care of the real-world systems, our ecosystems, our communities, our health, that make everything else possible.
So, I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. What if we started judging our economic success not by the numbers on a balance sheet, but by the resilience, the health, and the vibrancy of the world we're actually building together?